Most professional services firms get paid advertising completely wrong. Running ads is actually the easy part. But what do customers actually go through when they click your ad? And what is the exact journey you take them on? In this video, I'm going to go through the exact funnel we build out for our clients who are professional services firms like management consulting firms, accounting firms, CPA firms, fractional CFO firms, and law firms. And the list goes on. If you don't know who I am, my name is Saeed Chowdhury, founder of SRC Growth Partner, an advertising firm that helps professional services firms scale their high ticket, high value offers using paid advertising. We take a holistic approach with growth from cold to close, from cold to cash in the bank. We come in, we build an advertising engine end to end, and then run it for them to help them scale. But before I go through the exact system we actually implement for our clients, as well as going into some detail and depth into how you can implement it yourself, if you want to actually check out what we do in more detail, I have a website linked below. Feel free to go there, watch the video on the landing page to get a better feel of what SRC Growth Partner, or what we like to be called SRC GP, actually does. Let's jump into the video. Okay, so let's jump into giving you a visual representation of exactly what is involved when building out a funnel. And so, what we're going to be going through today is essentially this section here, which is the actual, if it lets me, the actual funnel infrastructure behind actually building the right types of advertising funnels that work on meta ads specifically for professional services firms, right? All these other elements, that they're different sections of our process in which we build out the funnel. For example, this is the onboarding and what the information we need to know. This is the research phase required for actually understanding the client's offer and what needs to be done. And then here is the management of the account, and then actually managing the leads. So I want to talk to you firstly about what a typical funnel looks like for a professional services firm. Whether that is a meta ad, Google ad, whatever it is, what typically when someone starts running an ad, what they would do is they would simply have one ad. Maybe they'll test a couple of ads, um, and then they would drive those to their website. And from their website, they have lots of different tabs up here. So in the form, and then obviously standard here. So the tabs here would be things like about us, what we do, we do services, the um, client testimonials, possibly client testimonial, and so on. And I'm sure you know exactly what's going to be on your landing page, or website, I should say. What ends up happening is that this gives the lead, the prospect, the potential client, whatever it might be, lots of different points to be lost in. What does that mean? So essentially, with every single page that they go to here and here, there is more likely, when they're doing the research phase for themselves before they book a call, they are more likely to be interrupted by, let's say, a delivery coming in, lunch turning up, like, like having to cook, their baby's crying, the wife is calling, or someone gets pulled into a meeting, whatever it might be. There is more likelihood of you losing them before they've even booked a call. And when they come back to that computer, they've forgotten what they're doing, they'll X out of that page, and then they move on. What's happened there is that you've spent money here and not converted that cash. And so what most professional services firms end up doing is thinking to themselves, well, I'm spending a lot of money here and I'm not getting a return. I may as well go back to what I know it works for me, which is referrals, which is word of mouth growth, which is networking. And so you'll go back to delivering a great service, really slow growth, really trying to go out and network with the right types of people. And you can't forecast for the future. And so what we do is we build out an infrastructure that actually works for cold markets, right? And what is a cold market? A cold market is essentially trying to take someone who doesn't know you at all, never heard of you, and turn them into a paying customer. And how do we do that? Well, it's very different to how you would operate in a warmer market. And a warmer market or a warmer lead is someone who is like someone who's referred to you, someone who's come to you through word of mouth or whatever it might be, for them to come along because they know, like, and trust you, right? Immediately through a referral, they know, like, and trust you primarily because of the fact that the trust is already inbuilt in the relationship. Same with word of mouth and so on and so forth. What we want to be doing with colder markets is educating them on the know, like, and trust, and what we like to call the KLT framework. And that's primarily because it's very difficult to be able to generate leads through and actual close deals through cold markets unless you're actually educating your leads throughout the process. So what does it look like? So what we'll have here in Meta is a number of buckets. Let's go with 5 here. So 5 buckets. Essentially, this is an ad set. Within a campaign, you have multiple different ad sets, and within each ad set, you would test a separate angle. And so this angle might be for, let's say, a fractional CFO offer speed. So we get back to you much quicker. This one might be back office outsourced accountant. This might be uh, one time payment or one off payment. This might be no hourly billing, and so on and so forth, and then whatever the final one might be, I don't know. Anyways, so once we got our buckets of offers, then what we really want to be doing is then driving each of these ads to what we call a landing page, right? And I'm sure you know what a landing page is, but the difference between what we would do with a typical landing page is we would call this a VSL landing page or a VSL call funnel, right? That's what we typically build out for professional services firms, which we find is working super well. What is a VSL? So a VSL is a video sales letter. It's a video at the top of your landing page, which actually essentially educates the lead or the prospect on what you do, breaking down exactly how you would do it, what your client testimonials are, the results you've given, a full breakdown of exactly what the offer is for them. You typically have a headline here, and then it's simply a case of a book call there, and then it's educational um, educational copy on the landing page, right? So anything to do with what the offer is, what for them to understand, and then they'll have book calls throughout, and then you'll have testimonials as well throughout the page. Essentially, this whole thing is to educate your lead without having them bouncing off and going anywhere else. In one page, all the information required. And if they don't want to scroll through the information, they can watch the video. The video will have timestamps. It will have things that they can see, and it will be simply put. It's there to educate them, and it will be something. Simply put, it's there to educate them. From there, we do something very uncommon within most professional services advertisers, which is we would create 2 confirmation pages or 2 thank you pages, right? And so what is a thank you page? Thank you page is once they booked a call, they would be sent to a confirmation page or a thank you page, essentially thanking them for booking the call. And what we would typically have is a video at the top of the say a video at the top, essentially going through what they need to do or what the next steps are. Very simple, very important to ensure that there's increase in show rates. So when you're working with colder audiences, showing and running ads, there is a certain percentage of those who will book a call that actually do not show up to the call. And it's very important that you have a system in place so that you increase the number of people actually attending those calls. And so a video here, next steps, going through how they would accept an invite into the calendar, that type of stuff, very, very helpful. So once we got them onto why do we want 2 thank you pages? Well, one is for the qualified leads, and 2 is for the unqualified leads. Okay. Why are we splitting these up? Well, the reason is because we want to be training Meta. And so I'll give you an example. So with Meta advertising, you're able to you're able to attach something which is called a pixel onto your thank you page. The pixel is essentially a bit of code that follows you around on the internet. And this one is specifically created for Meta so that when someone books a call, the pixel fires off and lets Meta know exactly the types of qualified leads that you want coming in. So it's essentially training the algorithm here. Why do we do this? Well, a lot of people complain about the poor lead quality that they get from Meta ads. And that's primarily because the algorithm isn't being trained in the right way. So Meta, by design, is simply getting you in front of enough people to book calls, but it doesn't know who's the right one, who's the wrong one, unless you teach it who the right one is and who the wrong one is. So what happens, and so we put the pixel here. This one will have a pixel, and this page will not have a pixel. And so what happens is when someone books a call and they're unqualified, and how do we know they're unqualified? Well, we'll either have an opt-in here, which is we'll grab their emails, their full name, email, and phone number, or depending on the ICP, we would have it on a type form as a form on the actual landing page. So when they book a call, they'll click the button, and then a form will come up. They'll put the information in here, and so then and within that information, they're able to book the call. Once they hit book, if they are qualified based on the information that they've provided, let's say it's an income qualifier or like a revenue qualifier, they would be sent straight to the qualified page. If they're unqualified, for example, they can't afford the service, they'll be sent to this thank you page, which essentially doesn't have a pixel, which doesn't trigger or fire off to Meta, which basically tells Meta that these aren't the types of leads you want, and you want more of these leads, right? Okay, so let's talk about what actually are good economics for an advertising campaign, right, on Meta. So, what you really want to be looking for Meta ads to be profitable is to have an LTV equal to 5K to 15K. And LTV standing for lifetime value. So that's the value a client brings to your business over the lifetime in which they are your customer or client. The reason why we want this to be the LTV, and that's a really poor 5, is primarily because we want advertising to actually be profitable. So if you are an accounting firm that offers cheap compliance work, you need to change your offer to make it so that you can at least have an LTV of 5K to make advertising worthwhile. So what does that mean by changing the offer? So the most important aspect of any kind of advertising campaign on colder markets is understanding what the offer is and building an offer that actually works in cold markets, right? What's an offer? Well, an offer is not a service. And what do I mean by that? So a lot of people think to themselves, well, if I start marketing on advertising on Meta ads, I tell them, oh, we're an accounting firm or we're a management consulting firm. We'll do your consulting, or we'll consult you on, I don't know, change management, right? That is a service. That is not an offer. An offer is something more like we will um, we will save you 5,000 in 3 months, 5,000 in tax in 3 months with our audit process, or you don't pay. So, what is that? Well, that is essentially telling someone exactly what they will get They'll save $5,000 in tax within a time limit. So that is 3 months, for example, with our audit process. So a direct process that you have, or they don't pay a risk reversal, essentially going, okay, well, they don't have to pay if you don't find that. What your job is when you're approaching your offer is you want to find a small element of what you typically do for a client, and you want to approach the market with that small service as an offer specifically designed to bring someone in to your ecosystem, right? Show them value by actually getting them the result that you say that you will, and then from there upselling them into an actual longer term engagement, whatever it might be. So for example, this might say, okay, so to make it more worthwhile, it would be 50K, and so you can charge them 10% of the amount that you save, so that'll be 5K. And that's an example for an accounting firm. Management consulting firm, very similar. It will save you X amount, or whatever it might be. It's very dependent on what you do as an offer. And I'm just giving you an example here. And so then from there you can go, okay, well, if we can save them 50K based off of all the, I don't know, R&D credits that we can provide them, and then you can then go, okay, well, we'll get that 5K. LTV is worthwhile. It doesn't take a long time for us to do that. They just need to send us over their books and certain information. We can do that in a day. Before you know it, you've made 5K in a day, and then it's just a simple case of, okay, upselling them into a monthly retainer. They've gained value. They think to themselves, okay, how did my current accountant miss that, etc., etc. And so this is a super, super important element that most people do not get right when they're thinking about running their ads, right? Understanding what your offer is. Offer is not, we will do your bookkeeping better, or we will support you with your digital transformation journey. Nothing like that. It is, we will review your books and guarantee to save you an additional $1,500 in 6 days from our findings, or you don't pay. So you're much more specific about what they are getting. So once we've got the offer right, then it's the simple case of actually, and if we go in here to make it a little bit clearer for you, what's the process here, right? So what you'll see here is that we'll have a landing page here, VSL script here, add creative scripting, go for the approval, and then you record the VSL and add creative. So we're going to jump into giving you an understanding of this element now, which is the landing page create. Well, I've just gone through that. The VSL scripting. Okay, so let me just zoom out and go over here. So we've got the offer now. So we've got an offer. What our job now is to, from landing pages, what we want to do is we want to do the VSL scripting. And what is VSL scripting? Well, the VSL needs to be scripted in a way where you're actually engaging the lead or the prospect, and you're actually educating the lead and the prospect, right? And so it's very important that when you do go through creating your VSL, it needs to be between 5 to 15 minutes long if you're a B2B business. And this has happened. This has been seen over lots of testing. Once upon a time, it used to be 30 minutes to educate. But as markets have become more sophisticated in the typical offers that are now around, more and more people know what the offer is, understand it. So it's very important to keep it concise and keep it succinct and keep it in a way where it's just pure value information for them to be able to go, okay, I'm interested in knowing more. What you also want to be doing is demonstrating your personality here. And primarily because we're trying to build a relationship. So the first ad would be a video, all the ads would be video ads. So you're able to build that relationship, show them that they can trust you, they feel like they like you. And remember, we're always solving for the KLT framework. So the know, like, and trust framework, as you would in the real world, but we're doing it online. Then on the VSL, keep it so you're approachable, a bit of charisma, and trying to keep it more relaxed, right? You want them to like you again and want them to feel like they know you, feel like they're building a relationship with you. From there, what you want to do is you want to introduce the offer. So this is the breakdown of what the VSL should look like. So you want to introduce the offer, explain the offer, and then introduce the product and solution. So you want to explain, and then you want to introduce your solution. From there, you just want to sell the call to action, right? So sell the CTA. And the call to action can be click the link below or click the button below to fill out the form and book a meeting with me or book an appointment, whatever it might be. Decide your call to action and then go with that, right? And so we want to have this structure here primarily because this is the quickest way. And I just realized I misspelled introduce, but it is what it is. um, it is the most effective way for them to understand who you are, what you do, what your offer is, spelling it out for them as quickly as possible. And you can see there's a real difference there from this and then actually going to your website and then having lots of different places that they can go and be lost, right? You want them to understand exactly what you do. And I've been on so many websites, right? And I did introduce here wrong as well. That's annoyed me. um, so and I've done this many times before when I'm looking at clients' websites, landing pages. If I go into Meta Ads Library and I'm looking at the typical funnels that they're running, what you'll see is when they jump onto the website, there's so much information going on and it's not clear. The first thing I ask to myself is, so what do you actually do? Oh, you're an accounting firm. Oh, you're a management consulting firm. Okay, what do you do? And I have to actually troll through. It might be a section at the top, a tab saying what we do. Great, but I want to know straight away what you do, like a bit more detail in that. The homepage typically has very aesthetic looking things going on, but it doesn't necessarily always solve for giving you the information that you want in that moment. And you have to really start thinking in the prospect's mind. If they've clicked an ad, they don't really want to be going, okay, well, where do I find all this information, right? You really want them to be going and going, okay, I know exactly what I'm looking at. I can read anywhere I want to. I can stop anywhere I want to. I can, it's only one page. You're taking me through a journey to understanding your offer. Websites are great though, like for organic, right? So if someone is doing research in their own time, they've seen a YouTube video, they've seen a clip on your LinkedIn, or they've seen a clip on your social media of some kind, and they go, okay, what's this company? Do a bit more research in their own time. That's fine. That's organic. You've not paid money for that lead. When you start paying money for a lead, you want to make sure that every single dollar, every single cent, every single pound actually converts into some kind of ROI for you. And if you're not doing that, then advertising is the fastest way to burning through cash, right? And so it's really important to understand that what you're doing when it comes to advertising is you're purchasing traffic and you're purchasing eyeballs, right? And once you understand that that is what you're doing and you're not doing anything else, it's then what is the mechanism, what is the infrastructure you need to be able to convert those eyeballs, convert that traffic into people who are willing to pay you for the service, the offer you are providing. So now we've gone through what the landing pages are, the VSL, we've gone through the offer. The next section that I want to talk about is this bit here, email sequences, right? The ad creative scripting, again, part of the process, is part of the research process. You really need to be testing different angles, that type of stuff. And then the recording is very simple as well. Once you know what the scripts are, you would go through. But I really want to be touching on this section here now. And it's an easy win that most professional services firms who are advertising do not consider, right? And this is your email sequences. Have you ever heard of that, the phrase "don't buy your house on rented land"? And this is basically the simple premise that Meta Meta's algorithm, any advertising platform's algorithm changes on a day by day, a week by week basis. And you relying solely on their algorithm to be able to generate you opportunities can be your own downfall. And what ends up happening is, especially when you're marketing to colder markets, is that you can get a lot of traffic coming into your ecosystem. You can get a lot of traffic and eyeballs for people who are in your ICP that had never heard of you, that come in and become a lead, but they don't necessarily convert in the back end, right? And so emails are a really, really important tool in any kind of infrastructure to either convert in the back end if a sales call has gone ahead and the client hasn't closed, or what we do here is what we call the content or hammer them sequence, essentially hammering a lead or a prospect with emails that will educate them on exactly what you do and what your offer is, right? And why is that important? Well, what happens, and let me give you a little bit more of a demonstration here. So let me just create some space. So what happens when someone opts into a funnel is that they have shown or raised their hand in saying that they actually want your service or are interested in learning more. And so your job now, before a sales call, is to educate them as much as you can on exactly what you do, what your offer is, and what they need to know before any sales call. And why do you do that? Because what we find is that most people that either advertise or run any kind of campaign or advertising campaign, whether that's cold email, whether that's Google ads, whether that's Meta ads, whether that's LinkedIn ads, whether that's LinkedIn messages, whatever it might be, or outreach, what ends up happening is when someone comes to the call, they spend most of their time educating the prospect or the lead on what they do. And it no longer becomes a sales call or a sales conversation. And that needs to end up leads to another call, a follow up, or maybe even you would send them a proposal or something after the educating and then not hear back from them or feel like they're ghosting or something along those lines. And why does that happen? It's because what you're doing is you're educating them on a call where you should be selling them on your offer, right? And handling the actual sales call. It increases sales cycles, decreases bandwidth, increases stress levels, increases reliability on closing deals. And so it's very important that what we do is we bring this piece here between the sales call and the moment that they have opted in and booked a sales call. So what does that look like? Well, it looks like this. So you have 4 buckets of types of email sequences you want to be sending. So typically speaking, when someone books in a call in this period here, they would book in for a period of time of 48 hours to 72 hours before the sales call. So there would be a 48 to 72 hour lag between the opt-in time and the actual sales call. What we want to be doing is we want to hammer them with as much content as possible. So that would be emails coming in. So there, just to demonstrate. And we want to be sending out one email every 3 to 4 hours. And you're probably thinking to yourself, Saeed, that is a lot of emails in a space of 3 days. Isn't that spamming, right? And the reason why and I get this all the time, the reason why it's not spamming is because of this. They have raised their hand, they have opted in to being educated on what you do, right? And if you've done the funnel correctly throughout the process, by the time they've booked a call, they are intrigued. They want to know more. And what they will do in the time between that point and the sales call, if they are interested enough, is if you do not educate them on what you do, they will go out of their way and educate themselves, right? They might look at reviews of you. They might look at your LinkedIn. They might look at your YouTube. They might look at your website, and they may not like what they see. And there lies the problem. If you let the prospect or lead educate themselves, what ends up happening is that they go away and then they might educate themselves in the wrong way, or the way that you don't want them to be educated, or they might find a different solution. And before you know it, they're not turning up to that sales call. So, what do? Well, we break down our emails into 4 different buckets. We got an engagement sequence, we got a sales sequence, we got objection handling sequences, and we've got risk reversals, right? What is it about the engagement sequence that you need to be doing? Well, immediately, your email 1 and email 2 and email 3 needs to be about who you are, and then what your offer is. What's so good about your offer? Good. Why your offer is different, right? Those types of emails, and they can be long, they can be shorter. It depends on what the offer is, and breaking it down, bring in stories, bring in client scenarios, that type of stuff. Secondly, is the sales sequence, right? So the sales sequence is essentially anything that you have seen in the sales process that have been raised or that aren't objections, right? So, for example, what they need to know more of and be educated more on the offer for them to understand that this is a no-brainer. And so you would build out sequences here of the right types of emails, right? You do not have to break down all of this into all these emails. You can reduce it if it makes you feel more comfortable and going, okay, I don't want to annoy people. But and you can really experiment. What you really want to be doing is starting off with a certain amount of emails. It might be 3 on each bucket. It might be 2 in each bucket. And then testing by going, okay, let's increase each of these buckets by 1, and seeing if there is an increase or a drop off in the number of people opening those emails. Really, you want to be seeing a 50 to 70% open rate on these emails. If you see anything dropping below 50%, you want to reduce the number of emails you're sending. If you see that it's maintaining within the 50 to 70, absolutely add another email. Understand whether that is the trigger point, and when you've got to a point where you realize, okay, let's say it's email 4 in sequence 3 of objection handling here, so let's say it's here, then what you would do is go, okay, well, let's scale this back maybe 1 email, so we do it here. Or if objection handling is particularly important, maybe you scale some emails back here, right? So it's really about trial and error, understanding what your ICP likes and dislikes, and understanding what they need to know at what time. It's very important that you do all of this, though. And it's the engagement sequence, so understanding who you are, let them know a little bit more about you, your company, the story, the vibe, whatever it is. Sales sequence, let them know more about exactly what a sales conversation typically looks like. So what you would typically go through in a sales call, you want to be really covering here. Then objection handling, the types of objections that you typically get is too expensive, or I need to talk to someone else, or what about this offer compared to this company, or whatever it might be. And then you handle them here. And I want to talk about objections in a second, but I'll keep going here. And then finally, it's the risk reversal. So what is your risk reversal? If they don't get X amount, then what there needs to be some kind of element of risk reversal where it feels like a no-brainer offer for your lead. So then it makes sense for them to just actually turn up to the call to understand the offer. The risk reversal, look, what you end up proposing to the client versus what they end up buying, it might be that the risk reversal is not in the offer that you end up going with them with, right? So it might be a scaled back version. So let's say it's a fractional CFO offer, and you offer some kind of risk reversal and no money back, or the first month goes free if we don't achieve X amount, or whatever it might be, right? If they come into the conversation and you find, okay, they're not interested in that specific offer, you can downsell them onto, okay, a more retracted or reduced offer, going, okay, well, it doesn't have the risk reversal, it's less risky, but it can be X, Y, and Z, right? So it's very important to understand that once you're in the sales conversation, you understand that whatever you're selling in that moment in your mind, you can maneuver it based off of what your lead or prospect actually needs or wants. So it's important to listen to them in the discovery call, in the sales process, before you even propose what solution is actually right for them, right? And they might be there specifically for the offer and they go, no, I want this offer. Then go ahead and go with the offer. But it's really important you have some kind of risk reversal. And there's lots of different risk reversals out there. Typically, most people think of risk reversals as stuff that you see in e-commerce: buy one get one free, 50% off if you buy three, or whatever it might be, right? This can absolutely be applied to service-based businesses. It's just most people are scared to do so because they feel like they're attached to an outcome that they are unable to achieve. That's why you have to be very nuanced in the way you approach it, in understanding what can you actually achieve with reliability that is actually valuable for your clients, right? So I've given you an example there. I want to touch on objection handling before we jump off this video, right? And objection handling is also handled within the thank you pages. So as I showed you previously, so we have add, then we have landing page, then we have two thank you pages, right? So let's say the thank you page, you'll have a thank you video here telling them what next steps are, accept the invite that you've got, make sure that this why you get reminders, whatever it might be. We would also have what we call breakout videos here. And breakout videos are essentially 1 to 2 minute videos of you essentially going through frequently asked questions that your lead or your prospect or your ICP, typically ICP being ideal customer profile, typically asks, right? And this will be, you will know this from the sales that you've done and the conversations you've had, but you want to put these in, and you want them to be videos of yourself, just like the ads, just like the VSL, just like the thank you page, of you running through and answering these questions. The reason why we do that is because, again, we're solving for the K in KLT, right? Framework. You want them to feel like they know you and also they like you. And then if you're able to do that, they will trust you more, right? We want to be hitting them with all three of these elements throughout the infrastructure and the funnel that you build out. By doing that, what ends up happening is when they do come to the call, they may have seen a 15-minute video of you on the VSL. They may have seen a 1-minute video on the ad. They may have seen, uh, let's say you have six videos of the FAQ. That's 12 minutes there. And then let's say you do a 3-minute thank you video. So right there, you've got 31 minutes of actual in-person conversation, which isn't in person, right? So in person to them, in the sense that they are watching you on the screen. 30 minutes goes a long way before a conversation, right? 30 minutes. Plus, when we look at the education piece here, we're going to increase the area of them knowing who you are, liking your story, liking who you are, and then also trusting you, right? So adding client testimonials here, adding the results you've got here massively helps in that. So by doing so, they arrive to the sales call 5 times warmer, and we've manufactured a clear way in which we can then go and say, yeah, it feels like they know who you are. We've manufactured trust. We've manufactured a relationship, right? And in professional services specifically, there's 2 areas in which most deals are won and lost, and it's the area of trusting someone and the relationship you have with someone. So if they are coming to the sales call with 5 times warmer, more likely to have been educated on your process, exactly what you do, they are 100 times more likely to like you and feel a kind of affinity towards you and your offer. And obviously, when they come to the sales conversations much warmer, then it's a simple case of, okay, what is the sales process to actually convert them in the back end, right? And so it's dependent on if you have a team or if you're founder-led sales. A lot of professional services firms, they're founder-led sales firms in the sense that you will run a lot of the sales process. So it's really understanding what the sales process would look like and very quickly going through what that typically looks like. We always recommend with paid ads as well, you want to send an SMS or a video recording of yourself before a conversation. Essentially, go introducing yourself, saying how excited you are of the conversation that you're going to have, and hopefully that they can go through all the emails that will be sent just to educate them more. So it's really important to have a script, and then for every lead that comes in, to follow send this over. For all the leads that come in, don't book a call, but provide the information. You want to follow up with them by calling them because they've given you their email address, their name, and the phone number. So you want to call them, follow up with them, and this is what we would typically get setters to do. But if you're founder led in sales, then this would be something that you would hire out for in the sales team to follow up with leads and actually call them to bring them into actual booked calls. You can increase close rate by 7 to 10% by doing these two things. You can increase show up rate by 10% just by doing these things, right? It's so important to be doing that because the 10% there, these 10% or the 7%, that could be a massive difference in your margins, especially in the ROAS and the ROI you actually get from advertising. So it's very important for you to consider all of these things when building out. And as you can see, I've gone through a lot today and I've deleted some of this stuff already. But the primary aspect is to have a successful funnel within the professional services space is really you need to be doing a lot more than what you're currently doing to make advertising make sense for you. I'm going to leave it there. Hopefully, given you enough information to go away and build this out for yourself, give it a go, and really start mechanizing your client acquisition channel and systems so that you can find some success and close some deals. If, however, you'd like to talk more with myself and the team, there's everything that you need in the show notes or the description of this post. Go to our landing page, book a call. Happy to have a discussion with you. If you want more content like this as well, feel free to like and subscribe. What we'll do is we'll be creating much more content around this kind of area. We work specifically with professional services firms, and so this is my passion in helping professional services firms mechanizing online advertising for themselves, so that they can build and build for scale. So yeah, feel free to go to our website and book a call. Aside from that, hopefully you gain some value from this video today.